In this video, I will show you how to get started with Bomahut as we go through some of the key features. As you can see on the dashboard, you can see some of the quick actions at the top here. For example, sending reminders, recording a payment, adding a utility, or under the More Actions button, you can also see some other quick actions. For example, adding an invoice, downloading a report, and others. Also on the dashboard, you can be able to see a summary of some of the statistics that are important to you. For example, you can be able to see the unpaid tenant balances in total for all the tenants. You can be able to see the payments that have come in for this particular month. For example, you can see here it's August. You can also see the total number of vacancies that are there. It also shows you how many units are occupied. The section below, you can be able to see a comparison between the total invoices and total payments month by month. What I'm going to show you next, we are going to add a property or a building, and then inside the property we are going to add units, and then inside the units we are going to add tenants. Add a property, which is the first step when you get started with us. You go to the properties tab on the left, select properties, and then select property/unit. It opens the properties page. Here you click on add property, which is at the top right. So add property. Then we can maybe give it a name. Let's give our property or building a name. Let's say demo building. Number of units, let's say the building has 10 units. Where the building is, we can say Nairobi. More data, we can say this is in South Sea. Water rate. Under this water rate section, you are going to provide the charges for water if you bill your tenants by yourself. For example, here we can give it the standard common rate is usually around 150 shillings per unit of water. For electricity, the same. If you bill your tenants by yourself, most use tokens. Most of the units use tokens, so you don't have to enter this. You can leave this at 0. If you have a pay bill number, you can provide your pay bill number here, or a till number. If you have a till number, you can provide the store number that usually comes with the till number. The till number itself, you enter it here. If you don't have it, you can leave it blank. As you can see, it's an optional field. And then after doing all that, we have all our data in. We can click on add property. We can see property added successfully. After this, we now need to add units inside this property. So to do that, we click on back here. So it loads this properties page. You can see that the property has been added. And then we go to add unit at the top right. Once you're there, you select the property, which is demo building. Remember, this is the property that we've just added. You maybe give it a unit name. Maybe it's house number 1. And then we can give it rent of maybe 10,000 shillings rent per month. You can select occupied or not. If it's occupied, you select or you click on it like this. If it's not occupied, you can leave it empty, and then you can add the unit. So that is 1 unit we've added. So we can, from here, we can update the unit that you have just added, or you can add another unit. So let's add another unit. Let's create 3 units. So let's add another one. You can see it already pre-fills the first field, which is the property field. And then let's say it's house number 2. And then the rent amount, let's say it's 12,000. Then let's add it. Then let's add another one, which is the third one. Well, let's say it's house number 3, and then the rent amount is maybe 13,000. So we can add it like that. So all our units are now added. To view them, you can click back here. On this page where you have the properties, you can see the drop down on the left which says all properties. Select it, click on the property, for example demo building, like this. You can be able to see all the units that you've just added. They'll all show up here. Now that we have the property added and the unit added, the next step is to add tenants inside those units. To add tenants, you go to the tenants page by clicking the tenants tab on the left. It opens this page, which is the tenants page. Then you click on add tenant, which is at the top here. Click on it. It opens up this add tenant form. Click on the property, demo building, and then you select one of the units here. One thing you need to note is that you can only add one tenant to a unit. So let's click on that first one. Let's add a name. Let's say John Doe. (07175124883). On this section, you can add the deposit. This is the deposit amount that the tenant paid when they moved in. So the deposit, maybe let's say 10,000 shillings. So these are the mandatory fields. If there are other details that you want to add, you can click on the show more here. It opens up a few more fields which you can add. For example, the email, optional, some notes. If there are some notes you want to append to this tenant, the date that they moved in, you can enter it there. The move out date, you can enter it there. And then if there's a lease agreement, you can upload it here. And then once you have all that, you can click on add tenant. So the tenant has been added successfully. So let's add another tenant. You see that it already pre-fills the property. So let's select the second unit, house number 2. Then let's add someone by the name James Mwangi. Maybe and then the deposit 12,000 maybe. As we've said, the rest of these fields are optional. You can leave them blank. Add the tenant. Let's add a third tenant to the third unit, house number 3. Then we can give him the name Ian Rono. Deposit, let's say they paid a deposit of 13,000 when they moved in. We can also give them an email. Maybe let's say Ian Rono 12. Under the notes, let's give him notes. Let's say, for example, maybe stays with brother, or any other kind of note you might want to append to this particular tenant. Let's add the tenant. So to view the tenants, you can click the back button here, or you can also just clicking on the tenants tab here. The page that shows up will be able to give you the list of tenants. You have the tenant's name here, the building, the unit, phone number, the deposit they paid, the balance column, and the account number that was generated for them automatically by the system. You can also see some of the actions that are you can perform on a certain tenant. You can edit the details of the tenant. You can send a message to them directly. You can download a report for that tenant. That's the financial report. You can also shift the tenant to a different unit. You can archive a tenant. Archiving a tenant is deleting a tenant. So on this page, you can be able to see the balance column here. This column shows you the balances that the tenants will have. Of course, because we have just entered these details right now, you'll find that the balances are still 0. As we move on, we're going to add some balances, and then you can see them being shown here. Now that we have our tenants added, we need to add the updated balances for each of the tenants. For example, let's say that Ian Rono, who lives in house number 3, has a balance of maybe 5,000 shillings. We call this the opening balance. This is the balance that the tenant had when you added them to the system. So for example, to add this opening balance, we go to financials on the left, click on financials, then it opens up this inner tab, click on invoices. So we add an invoice to this tenant. For example, we click on add invoice at the top, and then the building is already selected. Click on the tenant. We said Ian Rono, so this is Ian Rono here. So the item, let's say, because it is an opening balance, probably it's for rent or whatever thing the balance was for, we can just let's select other, because it could be a balance for rent together with other things. So let's select other. Okay. Invoice amount, let's say we said 5,000 shillings. So the invoice date, this is by default it is selected to be today's date. You can leave it at that. Invoice status open, by default just leave it at that. If you want to add more details, these are the compulsory details. If you want to add more, just click on show more, and it gives you an option to add a memo to it. You can probably say this is the opening balance. With that, you can add the invoice. Okay, let's add another invoice to the tenant who lives in house number 1. Let's select house number 1, and then invoice item, you can see it's already pre-selected other. Maybe we can say the invoice amount is 10,000 shillings. So this is an opening balance of 10,000 shillings. The date is selected open, just leave it at that. Memo, opening balance, then add invoice. So this means that we have altered the balances for 2 tenants. So to see that, we can go back to the tenants tab on the left, click on tenants, and you can see on the balances column, we now have new balances for John Doe in house number 1 and Ian Rono in house number 3. Another thing you need to know how to do is to add payments. To add payments, click on the financials tab on the left, and then you click on payments. So whenever a tenant makes a payment, you need to add this payment to the system so that the tenant's financial records are automatically updated. So to do this, you click on the payments tab, and then you click on record payment, and then let's say you want to give maybe John Doe here a payment of maybe 3,000 shillings. Let's say they have paid 3,000 shillings for something. These other fields, they are pre-selected. For example, the payment date is pre-filled with today's date, and then the status confirmed, you can just leave it at that. If you have any other details, you can click on show more. You'll find that there are other details you can choose here, including an option to upload the receipt that maybe they have given you. So click on add payment. Now that we have added this payment, we expect that John Doe's balance is going to be updated with both the invoice we had added and this payment. So they're going to balance. For example, if we click on the Tenants tab now under John Doe, we'll see that they now have a balance of 7,000 and previously they had a balance of 10,000. That's because of the payment that we have added to them. So when you click on this balance here like this, you will be able to see how this balance is calculated. For example, you'll see that you had the invoice here that we added before, which is an opening balance invoice. And then you'll see the payment that we have just added of 3,000 shillings. And that is how we come about with the balance. This process of manually adding payments whenever the tenants make payments can be automated so that you may not be having to add these payments by yourself. This can be done through integration of M-Pesa, for example, if you have a pay bill or a till number. We can also integrate with some specific banks in Kenya so that whenever a tenant makes payments, the payment is automatically recorded onto the system. And that enables us to achieve the automatic reconciliation of tenant accounts. The next thing I need to show you is how to top up your SMS balance so that you can be able to send messages or SMSs to your tenants. Some of these messages include the reminders, the payment reminders, or any custom messages that you may want to send to your tenants. To do this, you click on the settings tab on the left, and then you click on billing. On this page, you can be able to see your SMS balance here. So for example, for now, you can see that it is 0 shillings. And then the cost per SMS, we charge 1 shilling per SMS that you send to tenants. To top up your SMS account, click on top up account at the top right corner. And on this page, you'll be able to see the pay bill number here, 4089057, and the buy SMS account number. To pay for SMSs on our system, you use the M-Pesa pay bill number 4089057 and your SMS account number, which is this. When paying for our subscription, of course, this will come 1 month after you have used our system, you will pay using the same pay bill number, but a different account number this time, which is this. When you create your own account, you're going to get a different account number here. This account number is specific to your account. So once you have top up your SMSs and you have everything set up, you can now send reminders to tenants. Okay, for example, you can do that by going to Tenants tab here, and then you go to send reminders, and then you select the property, maybe demo building. On clicking send reminders, everybody or every tenant inside this building or property is going to receive an SMS reminder as long as they have a balance. Okay, if someone does not have a balance, they are not going to receive an SMS. Thank you so much for watching this video.